Hi guys, I'm Candace and I'm with Be You. Be your own you. Welcome to our Inspirational Interview Series, designed to inspire, motivate, and change lives. We are interviewing anybody and everybody who has a story or message to share, because you have a voice, and together we can inspire and empower. So welcome and be empowered. So today's interview is with a lovely, lovely lady. She's super inspiring, super talented, and just doing great things for our world. And I don't want to give too much away because I want her to share her story and her passion. So without that said, please welcome the lovely Alycia. Hey, Alycia.
Hi, Candace. Thanks so much for having me on. This is awesome.
Of course. I'm super excited. I'm excited to share it with the viewers how I know you.
Yeah.
And that whole story, because I think it's super cool.
Oh, yeah.
Before we get into that, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm so good. Yeah. I'm like, finally, San Diego weather has shifted. I'm like, we're back into summertime. Like, even though we barely have a winter.
Yeah.
But, oh man, I'm digging the heat now. I'm like, fun. Love it. Yeah.
I love the heat. I think I'm a big baby, so when it is cold, I'm like, oh, it's like winter for us. But I've been trying to take full advantage of the summer heat.
Good. I know. I get it, girl. I'm also like with the cold. I have a heated blanket. Living in San Diego, there is no need for a heated blanket, but I have one. My husband like hates it. He's like, what is this extra stuff? Like, but no, like a girl's gotta be warm, you know? So yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah, that's my boyfriend. He like,
oh, really?
We live together. So I've actually this winter, I was trying to turn the heater on. He's like, no, you're not, get a blanket. I was like, no, it's so cold in here.
Yeah. That's what you need. You need a heated blanket, Candace.
I do. I'm going to actually invest in that. My mom has
it on just your side. Like he can be cold on his side, crack a window even. You'll be all snuggled in. Yeah.
That actually sounds really nice.
There you go. See?
people, I have family from Colorado. So whenever they visit, if they visit in the winter, they're in their shorts and tank top and we're looking like babies. And they're like, oh my gosh,
I know.
Cold.
I know. Well, I actually grew up in Pennsylvania. And so you would think that I would be like really adaptable to cold weather, but it's the opposite. Like when I was living in Pennsylvania, I did grad school in Illinois. So the winters there are horrific. Snow and freezing and wind. It's like crazy. So this to me is like, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy the sunshine and the warmth. Yeah. So I soak it up.
Yeah. Good. When you moved here, were you like, oh, this is warm? And then eventually did you be like, oh no, it's cold now?
Actually, I didn't really have like that. Well, man, I take that back. So when I first moved from Pennsylvania, I moved to Los Angeles. And I think Los Angeles is a little titch warmer than San Diego. So I did notice it there that I felt like, oh, it feels like significantly felt like a lot hotter. But I also moved there in April and it was still snowing in Pennsylvania.
Oh my gosh.
In April. Yeah. So when I moved out to Los Angeles, it wasn't snow. So I was like, so then, yeah, I did notice a major difference. But then like 1 year later, I was back to the like, I didn't keep my thick skin. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now let's get to the real good stuff. That was amazing. So can you just share with the viewers who Alycia is and what you do?
Yeah. So I actually started my career in education. So my undergraduate degree is elementary education, and then I got a master's degree in higher education, worked on college campuses for many years, and then from there created my first business as a pageant coach. Wow. So I have a background competing in pageants for many years, became Miss California several years ago, and then launched winapageant.com. And Win a Pageant was originally full service coaching. And then I sort of niched down into interview coaching because that became my passion and what I was excellent at was communication. So more recently though, I transitioned that business into serving entrepreneurs and helping other people who want to start a show like you have and want to really reach more people from a personal branding perspective. So they have an idea, they want to empower people in various niches or in various industries, or maybe they even have a course that they want to promote. And so then they would join my program and I would help them to start their show in a way that is like not going to be crazy expensive or take tons of time, but really keep them focused on their core values. So that's kind of what I do these days.
Wow. That's a lot. Like you went from this to that. At a young age, did you know what you wanted to do? Or was it kind of like,
Girl, no. I had like 15 majors in college. Like
Wow.
I was so like, oh, I'm just so multi-skilled. Like I could do anything, you know? So in college, before college, I thought I wanted to do television. So I was like, oh, I'm going to be a broadcast. And the only thing that I knew about television was the news anchors. So I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to be like a news anchor or something. But I do not like the news. I don't even watch the news now. So I'm like, good thing I didn't go that direction.
Yeah.
But then I ended up, I loved to dance. So I even taught like hip hop classes and ballet classes and things like that. Yeah. So I thought for a while, oh, maybe I'll be a dancer. And then I learned about the industry, and it isn't like a long-term industry, you know? So then in college, yeah, I studied like broadcast. I studied camera, like I tried to be cameraman. So I studied that. I was a theater major at one point, a Spanish major. I was a PR major. I mean, I had like, my identity confusion was huge. But what's so cool is that today in my career, I am using elements from all of those things. So it's like wild to think, and I'm like mid-30s now. So it's so interesting to think that back then I was like, oh, who knows what I'm even going to do? Am I even going to have a career? Like, I don't even know where all this leads. Because in my mind, all I knew was you started at the bottom, you got your education, then you got the first job, then you got another job, and you worked your way up the ladder. Like, that's the kind of environment that I grew up in. No one I knew was really entrepreneurs at a high level.
Wow.
So yeah, so it was like, I was like, well, I needed to find like which ladder was I going to be climbing on, you know? And then as my career got started and I went down the education path, I was like, well, like this will do. This is paying the bills, and I enjoyed it and learned a lot from it. But I knew that wasn't like what I was ultimately going to do. So then when I had the opportunity to start my own business, I was like, let's go. Like, let's learn this. Let me figure it out, you know? So yeah. And that was about 4-ish years ago or so. It's been an awesome journey. Yeah.
Well, it seems like you're a jack of all trades. You take everything from what you learned.
Yes. And, you know, I think that there's a lot, and especially like our generation these days is really multi-skilled, because think about it. We can learn something like this. Like you could go to YouTube and learn how to change a tire. And now you know how to change a tire, you know? You could learn how to bake some cookies, and now you know how to bake cookies. You know, it's like information is so easily accessible that we're able to learn things so quickly. And then if we can just use that skill and apply it to whatever it is we actually want to do, you know, even in the smallest way, everything is applicable. So then when you apply it to what you want to do, you're like, okay, then now it separates you from other people that are doing it in their way, you know?
Yeah, that is so true. And that makes me think of my mom, which I love her. She's like, Candace, how do I do this? I'm like, Mom, Google. Just go Google. It'll give you a full tutorial.
Yes, that's so true.
There's like YouTube knows for anything and everything, how to become an entrepreneur, how to become actually lately I've been watching interviewers, like the top interviewers and how to interview, because that's like the Google has everything for us.
So true. Yeah. Diane Sawyer. Have you like researched her work?
I think someone actually mentioned her. Maybe it was you last time I met.
It may have been. So she's like one of the old school greats. I think that she was doing the 2020 interviews. So 2020 interviews with like Princess Di right after she left the royal family, did an interview with 2020, you know, and like that kind of Barbara Walters. Oh, she's
write her down.
Yeah. So these are like the old school, because I went through that as well as a host. Like you want to research your craft, you know? So yeah, they have so many like, you know, and people do videos where they choose like, oh, here's what is so great about this one and that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, it's fine. Just to go back really quick before I forget this thought.
Yeah.
I love how you're like, I changed all my majors. I didn't know really what I was going to do. And now here you are, a successful, you know, entrepreneur. And I think that goes to show, like, just trust the journey, trust the process. Because in that moment, like, I'm 23 and I will admit I have those days where I'm like, what, like, where am I going? What am I doing? But then goes to show, like, no, just wait, like in a couple years, a year, whatever it is, 6 months, it's going to show, like, I'm glad I did that and learned this.
So true. So true. There's this saying that I subscribe to, which is there are seasons of sowing and seasons of reaping. And which is like basically if you're planting the seeds and then later down the road, the seeds grow and then you harvest the seeds. So farmers do this all the time. They plant the seeds in the spring, and then they harvest the seeds in the summer or in the fall, and you would never plant a seed and expect it immediately to produce a harvest. Like, no, it takes time, it has to kind of marinate, and you have to water it, and you have to care for it and things like that. So in fact, my husband and I, we talk a lot about, right now we are in a sowing season. And so we're just like giving a lot. We're like, constantly just building, we're creating new things, we're developing new things. And we know that soon it will be a harvest season. And in the harvest season, that's when we'll like kick back, we'll go on vacation. Like that's when we'll just like soak up the goods of the harvest. But, college is definitely a sowing season. And you're just planting the seeds, and the harvest comes later. But you got to just trust, as you said, trust that it will come, because it will. If you're planting good seeds, now, if you're planting bad seeds, you're going to reap that too, So if you're planting a bad harvest or none at all, well then, of course you're not going to, you have to be doing something so that you're planting the right seeds that you want to reap in the future.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually a great analogy. I'm going to start using that because
do it, girl.
I think it gives you kind of a calming, like on those hard days, like, you know what? I'm like, my harvest is coming.
Yes, it's so true. Yeah, and it keeps you focused on like, well, what season am I really in? Am I supposed to be relaxing and harvesting right now, or am I supposed to be putting in? And sometimes we put in and we think like, boy, like how long is it going to take? But things do take time, and then like, okay, if I'm sowing, I will receive this in the future. So it does, like, it like motivates you to keep going.
Yeah, definitely. I love that.
Yeah.
So what are your parents like? Because it just seems like you're just this driven young woman.
Yeah. Oh, I love my parents. So we actually have a really, really great relationship. My mom and dad were both teachers when we were growing up. So what's cool is that we always had summers off together. So so they weren't working in the summer months, teachers don't work in the summer months. And then as I grew, so I think it was probably like 8 or 10 before I realized that like most people don't have summers off. Like most adults actually.
Oh my gosh.
I know, isn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
My aunt was a veterinarian, and I realized like she was working in the summer, and I was so confused. And then it like hit me like, well, that makes sense. Like people do, it's like, how funny that is. But it was awesome to be able to have my family there. So we would take trips. So we would sow sweet corn in the spring months before school was out. So we would actually plant sweet corn, fields and fields, in Pennsylvania, most people are farmers, right? Like if you live in the rural areas. So we would plant sweet corn, and then in the summer months we would harvest it. So we would pick sweet corn, hand pick it, like walking through the fields and stuff. And then we would sort it out, and then we sold it to groceries in the area. So this is like, your farmer's market kind of thing. And, so I kind of learned that little piece of summertime entrepreneurism, and then when the season was over, we would go on vacation. And so we knew we were planting seeds so that we could harvest them to have the corn. And then in that harvest season, we were planting, giving the goods out to others, but that was a sowing season for finances. So that then when it came time to go on vacation, we could, So my mom and dad are awesome. My mom recently retired. My dad retired from teaching. He ended up going, like my mom was a kindergarten teacher most of her career, and God bless her. I can't even imagine doing that. But she did it all of her career. And then my dad ended up becoming an administrator and stuff. So when we were older, he did work during the summer months. But we still took trips and things like that. So I'm very fortunate. I got some cool parents. Yeah.
I always love asking about parents, because when I meet someone, I'm like, I want to know where they came from, and it just goes to show at a young age, like obviously your mom wasn't like, we're in a season, you're going to harvest later, or your dad, but it goes to show at a young age that was instilled like subconsciously.
Totally. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And as teachers, they were also, I think they thought like teachers, right? So they were constantly like teaching and training, so even they were always like, everything became a lesson. And what our vacations, like I say vacations because they were at that time, but they were to like Mount Rushmore and the Grand Canyon and, Mammoth Caves. Like, so we traveled extensively, but to all of these like places that I would then read about in my 5th grade, history class. Yeah.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah, they were all into the learning. Mm-hmm.
So you really are a jack of all trades, a little farmer. Like, I love this story. I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
You were in the pageants. Like, share more about that. Like, how you got into being Miss California.
Yes. Yeah. So growing up in a small town, and my town was a small town, I think that there were 70 in my graduating class.
Wow.
So we were a very small town. And although I know they're smaller, but ours was. And so I was always had this, and I was also a middle child. So if you know anything about middle child syndrome, they call it, there's this tendency to want to perform. And I absolutely was a performer, like dancer, and I loved to be on stage. I was Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz when I was a kid. Like, I just loved like stage performance. So when I was in college, I started a dance team and was like active with my dance troupe, but I was then transferring school. So I was in my 20s and I was transferring to another school where I wouldn't have the same opportunities to dance.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I really want to dance in front of a huge audience. And there was a pageant in my area that it was held at a grandstand where there were 2,000 seats. So it was this humongous pageant. And that's like huge for a pageant, you know, so for especially a little local town. So anyway, I entered this pageant. There were maybe 12 girls that entered the pageant, and I didn't want to win. I just wanted to dance in front of everybody, you know? Yeah. And then as it got closer and closer and closer to the actual pageant day, I became more and more competitive. And I was like, I am going to win this thing. Like, so I turned it on, ended up winning the pageant somehow. I had never competed. I competed in one pageant, but never very good before. And so, yeah, I was, I think 20 or 21 years old and won this first pageant. This was in Pennsylvania, went on to then compete for Miss Pennsylvania. And it was in the top 10, which was like, wow, unheard of. And then they gave me scholarship dollars and then more scholarship dollars. So I competed in the Miss America pageant system for many years, ended up earning, I think, like $12,000 in scholarship dollars over that season, which is awesome. Yeah. And then in pageants, there are lots of different kinds. Like there's the Miss America pageant, Miss USA and Miss Universe. There's the Galaxy pageant, the United States pageant. I mean, there's so many different types of pageants. And so I competed in a lot of them. And then I started training friends of mine. Like they would be like, oh, you have a lot of success. Like, how do you do this? I won Miss Maryland at one point. And people were like, how did you just go to Maryland and win a pageant, you know? And how did you become first runner up here and here? And so, yeah. So then when I moved out to California, by that time I'd been competing in pageants for like 8 years or something.
Wow.
And it was really, then it had started to become a way for me to get into the community. So every time I moved, you know, when I got into that new school, then as I transferred, got into a new school. And so I competed in a pageant in that area. And then I was able, when I won, like you get to know the community, you know, you become sort of a part of the government and a part of the volunteers and a part of the events. And, you know, you get to do a lot in the community area. So did that there, did it in Maryland, did it in Illinois, like every move that I had. So when I moved to California, I was like, that's how I get to know people. Like that, and then ended up eventually winning Miss California. Yeah. And it was a massive opportunity, you know, to just meet people and, you know, do the things I wanted to do.
So was it like an overall great experience? Like,
and it was. Yeah, because pageants sort of get a bad rap, right? Because it's like, you would think that, it's like, and it is not for the weak, like that's for sure. Like you really want to, because I feel like pageants sort of amplify all of the ugliest parts of our world. Because you're actually like being judged, like you're literally walking on stage for somebody who you do not know, a stranger, to write down a score from 1 to 10 on how they think of you. And that, like, how that's so subjective. It's so objectifying. It's so like, so it's a kind of a yucky thing. But what I did, because again, family of educators, and I myself was an educator, I was like, if I can learn what it is that's making people, if I can understand people and understand what is it in their minds that moves them, that persuades them to choose a certain thing over another thing, then I think I can crack the code. And honestly, Candace, that's what I did. I started studying the psychology of pageantry, and it turns out it's the psychology of just people, right? And what I found is that people prefer things that make them feel great. So I learned very early that if I am able to use my skills to make other people feel great, to build them up, to lift them up, and to encourage them, then they're going to be attracted to that, you know? And that's, I think, why we're so attracted to people who are in the empowerment movement right now, people that just inspire us, right? Because they just make us feel good. They light us up inside. And then we're like, wow, I feel good. And I give credit to that person that did that for me. So as I was competing in pageants, I turned it away from look at me, and I'm going to do all the things, and onto how can I serve people? And where can I fit in that's going to be a greater contribution to society? And so now in my pageant coaching, I've created programs that help people it draws out of them the strengths. We call it a legacy project. So it's what you will leave as your legacy, you know, as a human on this planet. Yeah. And then we use that to help them win the pageant, because it's really just comes down to the psychology of humans, you know?
Oh my gosh, that is so true. And I would have never looked at it like that.
Wow.
Like that's true kind of with anything in the psychology of like, you know, your clients or who you want to serve and, you know, your legacy. I love that. Yeah. I'm about to go, when I upload this, rewatch this last like 2 minutes of that, because just that stuff is empowering and it's so true.
That's cool. Right. It is. And it's true that like in psychology, you know, we study that even as business owners, we study the psychology of how people think and how they make decisions. And it really comes down to what do they know? What do they like? And who do they trust? Yeah. And if you can, as a person, if you can get other people to feel like they know you, and that's by being vulnerable, to feel like they like you, and that's by sharing things that you enjoy and understand and asking right questions to know what they enjoy, and then feel like they trust you. And that's just living in integrity, you know, like being a good person and doing the things that you say you're going to do, or acknowledging them when you don't, you know. And when you do those things, people are attracted to those types of qualities way more than physical beauty. Like I'm definitely not the most stunning. I've seen some amazingly stunning women, and often I've beat them in pageants because it isn't about that. It's truly about how you make other people feel, really. Yeah.
Well, it kind of goes down, like, this is like a little story, but like, I feel like in high school, she's prettier than me. Like, that's why she gets all, but it comes down to it comes down to who you are as a person. Cause you could be like the prettiest person on the outside, but like super ugly in the inside. And that's not going to take you really any far.
Yes. And we all know those people, and we don't respect them. Like, you don't respect somebody that's ugly on the inside. Like, if somebody is treating people bad or whatever, like bullying people, whatever, like nobody respects those people, you know, even if even if it looks like, oh, well, they're the most popular or whatever. Yeah. But they have no real respect, you know? And so it's like, isn't that crazy? But you're right. Like in high school, it's hard to see that, you know, you really have to have a mature perspective to understand, like, okay, and then to make choices, right, for yourself, like to say, okay, so I choose to behave as somebody who's respectable and admirable, and ultimately that's going to be the thing that people are drawn to.
Yep. It's all about what you choose, your choices.
Right. Yeah. Not easy.
No, it's not. But I think it's like whoever you surround yourself will help you make those choices, and, you know, be aware and conscious of what's going on and how you feel.
That's so true. Yeah. And leaders, the best leaders, I think, like when you look at a high school, the people that are leading, not from an abusive power, like a bully or something like that, but the people that step up into leadership, that is why I believe that is why they are excellent leaders, because it is not easy and they still make the right choices. And that is the type of person that deserves to be followed. You know, when you're cut in a situation where you have the choice between right and wrong, and you know it, because you know it, we have all, and some of us have made bad choices too. Like I've known the difference between right and wrong and chose wrong, you know, like we do that too, but it's so much difficult to go against the grain and choose what's right. And that is why people are respected for it, you know, because even if it's not the popular thing to do, but you do it because you know it's right, then it's like, people are like, oh, wow, like I couldn't have done that, but she did. That's awesome. You know? Yeah.
I was like, I played basketball. I did a year in college, and in high school, the players had a vote on the captain. And I remember I loved that because who got voted captain wasn't, who their favorite like person was. It came down to like, can you really lead? If we're losing, can you really pick us up and not get emotional into it? And so they had a vote, but the coaches did too. So I think one year, I'm trying to think, someone got picked, or the vote from the teammates got picked, but the coach said no and had a talk and was like, it has nothing to do with you. It's just, if we're down, I don't need you getting mad at the player saying, Alycia, you missed your free throw, or,
Wow.
And I actually got to be captain my senior year. I was just telling my sister, and I found this journal. So I was like, wow, I forgot that. And that is so true what you're saying. You want to follow those respectable leaders that's kind of going to lead in the correct way.
Yep.
Like, be there for you.
And it's so cool that you were reminded of that story, and that's something that you had the honor of doing. And I think that, like now you and I have a perspective that's different than when we were in it. Like when you're in high school, it's really hard to see 5 years from then, or 10 years out, or 15 years from then. And what I found is that the type of character, like just the fact that you and I are connecting, in pageantry, it would be miscongeniality. And miscongeniality is voted on by the other girls. And so the bully never wins. Like everybody's mad at the bully, people choose the girl who's just like awesome, who just like shines and is a light. And what I found over the course of time now is that those types of people are attracted to one another. Mm-hmm. So it's like fascinating to see, and even how you and I met, that room is full of winners. It's like people who are just amazing humans. And then we tend to flock together. We find each other. So when you are, stepping into that role and saying, I choose what's right, and I know I'm going to be respected for this. And some people, I might get a little pushback or whatever, but in the end, I'll be respected. Other people recognize that and also respect it. Like the people you want to respect you the most, respect it. And then you're like, now we can be friends. We can connect on this level because we both have a mutual respect,
Yes. So it goes down, which I've been meaning to share.
Yeah.
You brought it up perfectly, how we met. And I want to share that really quick. And I'm going to share the first part, and then you share the second part, which you'll know. Okay. I don't know that part. But we ended up going to the same event called the Bliss Project with Lori Harder. And that was super amazing. Some of you might have known my story. I did not know who Lori was. My dad actually met her, and she was like, have your daughter come to my event. It was a week from when they met. So I went. We were in the same room, didn't meet. And then we came back home, and there's a Facebook chat or group. And it was like, hey, San Diego Bliss Babes, let's meet up. And you were in it, I remember, and I recognized your name. And I wasn't able to make that first one. And I was bummed. And then all of a sudden, my dad texted me probably a month after that. I was like, hey, I met this girl, Alycia, get to know her, interview her. And I was like, Alycia, like, that sounds so familiar. So I typed it on my little Facebook, and it popped up in that same group. And I was like, oh my gosh, this must be meant to be, because we're at the event. I was supposed to go to that first meetup, didn't get to meet you. And then here my dad is, and I don't even know where he met you or how that happened. So maybe
I met your dad at Speakeasy Mastermind. So we were in a mastermind group together. Yeah. So I have been following Lori. So Lori and I were actually members of a fitness group years and years and years ago. And then her business took the personal development track. I went the pageant track. So we both kind of it's still incorporating a little bit of fitness, but mostly the opposite, And so then that was the first, and, Lori Harder's had the Bliss Project for now many years. So that was the first one that I also attended. And you and I didn't meet, but after returning back, I had met a few other girls in San Diego. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we created a group of women who have attended this event, who understand the personal development and kind of the concepts of it and how we want to treat each other with respect and that type of thing. And let's gather together. So we started gathering for brunch every Saturday, put this group together. You didn't get to go to the first one, but then after I met your dad, he was like, oh, my daughter does YouTube videos too, and you guys should connect. So I'm so glad that he connected us, because then that same weekend after we talked, you were able to come to the brunch. So it's awesome. Yeah. And now we do that brunch every Saturday. This group of girls, just a small group of girls, but it's enough to have great conversations and lift each other up. And yeah, it's a really cool crew.
It really is. I've only got to go once so far. I'm looking for the next one. And I'm going to talk a little bit about me, but it's supposed to be about you, but I just want to share about this event or this little meetup. Going to Lori's event, I was super nervous, like anxiety. I've never been to an event alone without my dad, And then I kind of got, we said earlier, like you kind of meet this inspiring person. You're like, I owe it to them. Like they made me feel good and empowered. So I owe it to Lori. I'm like, you made me feel good. Like I'm getting my confidence back. So when the meetup happened, this is when I went to, I was nervous, but I'm like, I'm going to go. I don't know any of you, because I was like, hopefully I'll know one person, Didn't know any of you besides our phone call, which was amazing. And it was amazing just to sit there and connect and kind of be open and vulnerable, because you don't really know who I am, I don't know who you are. So it's like, there's no room for judgment. And even if you did know me, it was kind of a no judgment space.
Right.
And it was super fun. And I'm grateful and looking forward to it. And you mentioned about communication earlier, and did you study communication or?
Yep, that was one of my many majors.
So one of my comments that I've been wanting to share was, I remember just you communicating with that group and thinking, wow, Alycia communicates so well, and you portray like messages very like where I can understand them. Like I need you to spell it out. So I just want to share that about you. Was amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I received that little compliment. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to share, I had that in my notes, and then you brought up communication. I was like, oh, no wonder she's so good. Cause I just remember like, and all the other girls were super amazing. Like they all were like, I just remember you sharing certain like stories, and I was like, wow.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's communication. I do think is important. And, it really, I think that it helps others open up when we share stories about ourselves, like you just shared that story, and it'd be interesting to see like your listeners, like what they've been through too, because we've all been in those moments where we've, the very first time you go to try out for the cheerleading squad, or the very first time you go to a new group or anything, or move to a new school or whatever, like that feeling rises like every time. And even, I'm still getting to know that group of girls as well. Now I feel a lot more comfortable because I've had several touch points where it's felt really safe. It's felt really comfortable, but it's because of the environment that we've created being there, because we too, we're non-judgmental, and we just let people come as you are, and we embrace you just as that, which is beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was literally it's like a little girls meetup. Can you share why it's important to maybe have a meetup with maybe close friends, people you don't know, like why it's important to kind of have these meetings?
Yeah, absolutely. I have several in my life. And growing up, when you're in high school and even sort of in college, you tend to just be with the crew that you like grew up with, like maybe your neighbors, or maybe the people that are in your gym class, or the people that are also on your sports team or whatever, because that's where you spend your time. But I have found when I diversify my friend groups and my, experiences, I still keep now, I didn't always do this, but nowadays I still keep my friend groups within my core values. So my core I do not go outside of my core values. So all of my friends, I want them to have my same core values. So if somebody is doing something that is against my value, then we're not friends. Like, cause that's against who I am as a human. And I don't want to be friends with people who aren't aligning with my values, cause we all have values and we deserve to protect them. So, but within those core values, like I have several different, just from my church alone, I've got several different groups of ladies that I meet with regularly. And it's like, some of them are the married couples with little babies. Some of them are like the young single entrepreneurs, some of them are like the leaders of the church, it's so diverse. And it's cool because then you get new perspectives, and when you're struggling, like yesterday, I needed prayer, and I was like texting all these groups of people like, hey, can you pray for me for this thing? And it was awesome. Just the love and support that comes back, and as adults, it's hard to make new friends. I mean, it's hard to make new friends at any time because of there's like this thing about, we feel like we should just jump to being besties, but I feel like there's that phase where we do have to get to know each other. We do have to kind of test out, are your core values like mine? And do I respect you? And do I admire you? And do I want to be friends with you or not? Because sometimes we say, nope, this is a friendship that doesn't need to continue. And others, you're like, I want to strengthen this. I want to spend more time with this person. I really want to get to know them better and share value with one another, So yeah, in my life, it has been huge. And sowing, they say like sowing and reaping, like dig the well before you're thirsty. Like you really have to make friends before you need friends, because there will come a time where you need people to rally around you, and you're going to want to already have created those friendships, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so true. And I like what you said about the perspective. It gives you different perspective, because everyone is so different. Like, even if I meet someone who's like, we're so alike, there's going to be something about them that's going to give you a new perspective, which I love. And I know I've been making new relationships since that event, you included. And it is amazing, because I'm like, wow, I didn't know. Like, I do have my like best friends, you know, but they're really not in alignment, only because I grew up with an entrepreneurial dad. Like, that's my lifestyle. And I don't have many friends who have that mindset or know that. So that's why it's great to start meeting these new people where it's like, oh, we can share the same conversation. And, you know, and I think that's where it comes down to as well. Like, you can connect more.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what advice, you mentioned if they don't share the same values, nope.
Yep.
What advice would you give to any of the viewers who maybe are like, oh, Alycia, I have some friends like that, but they're like long-term friends. I've known them since we were childhood. What would you say to them?
Cut them out. Done. Like instant. If people are not for you, they're against you. So I truly believe that if somebody is not rooting you on, we should all be cheering everybody else on, because why not? Like, so if people are not for you, then they're against. That's my philosophy, is like, not like you need to be nasty to people either, right? Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if somebody is not along your core values, it's okay to have friendships for a season. And that is totally fine. Like, we go through seasons of life all the time. We're constantly, the Bible says that the way of the righteous winds up. So you're constantly revisiting things in your life, but it's changing. You're in new seasons all the time. So you'll have a season of life where, like, for example, to be really transparent, I've had seasons in my life where I have had bad values, like things that were not healthy, not contributing to my life. I was making bad choices and stuff. Those friends that I had in that season, as soon as I wound out of that season, I had to get rid of those friends, because they were still in that season and I wasn't anymore. So I had to say, okay, I got to set new boundaries, you know? So I actually ended up, sometimes they would still like text message me or whatever, and I just would not respond. Just wouldn't respond until eventually we're not friends anymore, you know? Because if you lose touch with people, you don't really become friends. Now there is because I think this is an important note as well, and I do this in my own life. We have, you know, okay, so like take Jesus. For me, Jesus is like the ultimate example. Okay, so like let's just take Jesus for example. So Jesus had his core group, his 12 disciples. He spent most of his time with his core 12, you know? Yeah. They respected him. They had similar values. He was training them. He was teaching them. Those were his core 12. Now, even of the core 12, they still betrayed him and they still like backstabbed him and whatever, you know? So they weren't perfect humans, but those were his core people. It wasn't like he ignored everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. He still helped other people. He stayed in other people's homes. He still healed other people. He still went out but when he needed to retreat, he retreated with his 12. So this is what we do. My husband and I, we have our core group. Those are our people who we trust intimately. They deeply resonate with our values. Like, these are the people who we would like babysit their kids. Like, we're really, really friends with these people. Yeah. And then we have our acquaintances that we spend time with, but we're not going, you know, when we spend time with those people, we have to be like confident. We have to know that we're going to be giving a lot, like, because sometimes people need a lot of help or whatever, you know, so it's just a different level of friendship, you know, a different layer. Yeah. So that's okay to have like multiple layers of friends. But yeah, to your point, if somebody is like just not doing it, or they're being destructive, or they're just not relating to your values, just don't be friends with them anymore. Yeah. Like, just like that.
That was a great story. I like that. I should have thought of that, like, or looked at it like that. I like that. And that makes me think of actually a good friend. I'm not going to say any names, but she actually just got out of a relationship, And he wasn't abusive, nothing like that, but she's actually starting to love herself, in which I've been noticing. She's like, girl, I'm loving myself. You know, she's like, I'm confident in my body. And so we were talking the other day, and this guy has kind of been trying to come back in her life, and she's not allowing him, like, stay strong, you know?
Good.
And
Yes.
she's like, and I told her, I was like, you know what? I was like, I think I know why you're stronger this time, because in the past you would kind of go back. And I was like, and it's because you're loving yourself. You keep saying, I'm loving myself. So I was like, I think you're finding your worth, and you're knowing that you deserve the best. So that just made me think about it too. You know, if someone is maybe like questioning, maybe just start to love yourself, and you'll soon get that close family, you said, that close group who share the exact same values.
So true. Yeah. You know, Candace, there's a quote that says, or like concept, maybe a theory, that is women date to their level of confidence. So if your confidence is really high, you're going to date a guy that is like up here. But if your confidence is really low, you're going to go for this guy, you know? And no princess should be ever with a frog.
Like, I don't like it.
So it's like when you start treating yourself as a princess, you will find a prince. The problem is that we think that we're just going to find a frog and he's going to treat us like a princess. So it doesn't work that way. Like, frogs treat women like frogs. So you have to start by saying, I know what it looks like to treat me right. And when you know what that looks like, when you know what your princess style is, right? And I'm not saying like go be bratty about it or anything, but know what it means to, you know, have a man open a door for you because you're a lady. So that's what a prince would do, is he would open your door, you know? And if he doesn't the first time, you better stand there and wait and tell him, oh, you must have forgotten. I'm a princess. Come open this door for me. Right?
Yes.
No excuses. Like, and then he learns, like, and then a frog will either learn to be a prince, and he'll be like, oh, wow, I guess I'm dealing with a princess here. I guess I better step up my game. Or he'll say, I don't have time for this. This princess doesn't work for me. I need a frog. And then the frog will hop along and go find a frog, right? But it's like when you are a princess and you are, like you said, like loving yourself, your confidence rises. That's the perfect time to find a prince, you know, when your confidence is like just sailing, you know?
Yes. Oh my gosh. But the analogies, I love all of these. I'm about to go see her right now. I'm gonna go tell her that exact analogy.
Tell her. It's so true, right?
No, it is. And I like, wait for them to open the door. And
stand there.
If the frog hops away, well, he wasn't.
So be it.
Yep.
You didn't want a frog anyway. You're looking for a prince. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. I had all these rules when I was dating my poor husband now, although I won't say poor husband. He handled all of them. He was great with them all, but it was hard to find a prince, but that would actually do this. But yeah, my rules were like, you open the door, and we've now been together for a little over 3 years, married for almost 2. And he still, to this day, every time we get in the car, he opens the door. Every single time. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, oh, thank you. And I always will say thank you, because a princess is a lady, and, you know, she's grateful. And so I always would, you know, but it is still an expectation for both myself and for him, because he's a prince. So he wouldn't dare let a woman not, you know, like, he wants to treat me like that because he wants to have a princess in his life, you know? So we had all these like funny things. Like I was in my 30s when we met, but I never drank alcohol around him until like a few months in, because alcohol changes your brain. Oh, wow. So I was like, I'm not even going to drink a sip of alcohol. Every time we would go out to dinner, I would have water or tea every time. Like, cause I was like, I don't want my mind to see him differently. I need to know if this man's a frog. I don't want to just say, oh, well, you know, I had a drink or something. And so then it's not, like, nope. I was like, I got to stay crystal clear. I got to, you know, I had all these rules. I made a curfew for myself. Like, I'll be home at this time and you better get me home at that time. Like, yeah, because I was like, I'm a catch. So yeah, I had to really rock the confidence. It wasn't always that way for me. I literally sat down and like, was like, okay, how do I want my relationship to be? Okay. I want it to be like this. I want a man who does this. I want a man who does this. I want it, you know, and then you had to kind of create the man that does that.
Yeah. and they are out there, and she
They
has
are,
one.
girl.
So that's proof, and that's why I love it.
Yep, so true.
Yes, and I think even if you're in a relationship like myself, you can still write it down, that perfect man, and talk with your boyfriend, significant other, girlfriend, whoever, and be like, I want to become this person for you, and I want you to become this person, and it can happen. And if it doesn't, that's okay.
Yeah, that's right. Then you just know. You're just deciding if you're not married yet, then yeah, you're just deciding like, is this person somebody that's marriage material, or are they going to drag me down like a frog? Like if you stay with a frog for too long, you start thinking you're a frog.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, then it like drags you down even further, you know? So you gotta like dump the truck before you like get too far down the road, you know?
We aren't frogs, honey. We need to make that to a truck.
Right. That is right. Yep.
I love it. Well, we got to wrap it up, but I got a couple more questions.
Cool.
Just to sum it up, I know we've been talking about everything that you do, but in a few short words, what is your passion?
Oh, I like this. My passion is helping people influence others with integrity. So it's helping us to be persuasive and be a leader, but stay in integrity with our values and what we stand for.
I love it. That's awesome. So how can the viewers find you? Where can they go to get in touch with you, follow you, whatever? Because I want them to support you.
Yeah, thank you. So my website is alyciadarby.com. It's Alycia with a Y, Alycia, Darby.com. Everything is there. I am starting my new show. I have the Win a Pageant podcast is also a YouTube channel, and winapageant.com. So if you have any listeners that are into pageants, then that's a great place to find me, winapageant.com. Otherwise, all of my other content is alyciadarby.com.
Awesome. Okay, I'll share all the links on the screen, guys, because I want you to support her, follow her, go say hi. I'm from BU. I want her to know who you are. Oh, I just saw my note, and I had one more question.
Oh, let's do it.
Only because I hear this a lot. We were talking about personal development earlier, and there's a lot of hate and love for that kind of, I guess, word. For the people who are like, I don't believe in personal development. It's just, people want to just take your money. Like, it's not real. What would you say to those people? Like, what would you say about personal development? Why it actually kind of is important and a good tool?
Yeah, good question. So there's this concept, this guy Maslow. Okay, so this is little psychology for you. So Maslow created a hierarchy of needs, and a hierarchy, it's actually like a triangle. And at the bottom is like the very most basic needs that people have. And it's like, you know, the fact that you are like in shelter, that you can eat food, that you can go to the bathroom, that you can breathe, like the basic things of human existence, right? And then the next step above that is your safety, that you're safe and that you're secure in your environment, you know? And then the next step above that, well, then there's like loving and belonging. You have to feel like you'd love and that you belong somewhere. Then there's a layer, at the very top is this layer called self-actualization. Mm-hmm. And self-actualization is like personal development. So a lot of people that feel like their needs are not being met at the very most basic levels, self-actualization is like it just feels so far away. They're feeling like, look, I have to just like feed my kids. I got to like, you know, just survive a day in high school. I just have to like, you know, I'm not breathing well. I have asthma, and that's clouding my vision of everything. Yeah. So if we don't have those original things set and taken care of, it becomes difficult to get into personal development. But what is fascinating is that personal development often will also heal and fill those other areas. Mm-hmm. So for example, love and belongingness is like the third on the ladder, you know, it's like almost a basic need to just feel like you belong. Mm-hmm. Well, you can feel like you belong when you are personally developed, when you start to realize the world around you and start to understand like how you do fit in and your unique skill sets. Mm-hmm. Like every individual on this planet is made for a very specific purpose. Mm-hmm. And everything about their background, everything that's in their heart, like all of their like what gets them excited and like the things that they are like driven by, all of that is so intentional. It's like so on purpose so that they will chase that dream, you know, and all the things line up so that they'll be in the perfect position to meet the perfect people, to do exactly what they need to do at the exact right time. What happens is we start to get clouded by what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And so then we lose that love and belongingness. But when you step into personal development, you start to realize, okay, there are certain things on the inside of me that I need to learn about. I need to figure out, I need to draw out in order to step into my God-given purpose. Then it's like, boom, game over. Because as soon as a person, as soon as the person becomes alive and they realize those things, like it is like game on, girl. Like, because seriously, you have stuff on your inside that like is designed for your future, like literally put there with a purpose. And so when you're shutting that down and like, oh, those people are wasting my money. Okay, well, flash your life forward in 10 years and look where you'll be then. Like, you have to dig outside your gold, the gold inside of you, because that is there for a reason. And it's designed to serve the whole world, like the whole world by your gifts, you know? So it's vital. It's vital.
Thank you. Yeah. I was like, I have to share that because I've been hearing that lately. So, and then you brought up when you brought up just that word, I was like, oh, I got to ask her. So that's good. And you know, personal development doesn't mean you have to spend $1,000 to buy something or go fly somewhere to an event. Personal development is simply like praying and just meditating on like, God, speak to me, tell me who I am and what I'm supposed to do today. It's reading books, you know, opening up books and learning about psychology or learning about like whatever interests you, you know, learning about the world or the brain, how it works, or, you know, just anything to just understand yourself. That podcasts are free. Like there's so much out there, and there's a lot out there that's fighting against that, you know, like a lot of things that are trying to keep you down. Like there's so many things trying to say, oh, you don't need that. And oh, you don't, because it's like trying to stuff down your God-given purpose. But when you unleash it, it's like, and then so much bounce off of you. Those negative, whatever it is, people, sayings, voices, they just bounce off of you.
Nothing can harm you then. Yes. So true.
Thank you so much. I had to share that. Thank you. I'm so grateful for this. I'm just so happy that we're here today. And I just want to say thank you for your time, because time is valuable.
Yeah, totally.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Candace. And I want to take over you, Candace, because the work that you are doing in this world is absolutely important. And I know that it's not easy ever to get on camera, and it's not easy to put schedules together and to get everybody, but what you're doing and your channel that you are developing is epic. Like to get, and I just love the people that you have on your show. And it's like such a cool environment to just build leaders, and like comments on videos, like seeing the community of people gathering there is awesome. And it's like, this is the next generation, you know, what you're building here, and providing a space for those people to find each other, even through the comment section and, you know, through your videos and things. Like, it's like awesome what you are doing. So I'm so grateful that you would include me. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I feel the same about you. I feel so honored. So thank you so much.
Yes.
I'm so excited for the future for you and for me. And I just know, because you're making a difference too. Just like you said, your passion. That's amazing. You want to serve others, to spread love, feel honored, the integrity.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Ah, we're having a little girl love fest here.
Yes, and I love the girl fest. I love that.
Me
too. When girls love on girls. Like,
I know, it's so important, right? Yeah.
Because we relate to so much. Like, we, just by look, feeling, you can relate, because we're a woman. We all go through ultimately the same things.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so one last question. I kind of already answered it earlier, but what can I do, or what can the BU community do to help you?
Oh my gosh, how generous. Wow. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Well, you know, what would be great is to head over to my YouTube channel and to subscribe there and interact on that channel as well. And I think probably the best one is the Win a Pageant channel, because it's really about supporting women and helping women to step into their identity. So even if you're not competing in pageants, it will teach you how to win on stage.
Love it.
And it's awesome to have cheerleaders there to support other people. And I know your audience is a supportive and encouraging group. Yes. So if those ladies would join over on the Win a Pageant So it's winapageant.com/YouTube. We'll redirect you to our YouTube channel, and that would be awesome to meet your viewers there as well. Yeah.
Yes, I'm putting the link right here, you guys. And yeah, like she just said earlier, you know, personal development, it is free. So she's offering you a platform that is free, that can just inspire you, help change your life, and motivate. So go show her love, subscribe to Be You, and let's just keep building up this community.
Totally. Love it. Thank you so much, Candace. I appreciate you.
Yes. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.